Chris Doumitt was the guy who kept Parker Schnabel's whole gold mining business running for more than 10 years. And now he's gone. He didn't just quit his job. He walked away from work that almost destroyed him, leaving behind a gap in the team that might never get filled. Everyone thinks it was just because he was tired and burned out, but that's not the whole truth. The real reason has to do with a huge fight that happened in private, a secret the TV show would never let anyone see. For years, Chris Doumitt was the strong, steady person on Parker Schnabel's crew. He was the one who stayed calm when things got crazy, the reliable guy in the gold room who turned dirt into millions of dollars. But in season 15, that strong person finally started to break down. The stress had been piling up for years. But this season, Parker's big goals pushed Chris way past what he could handle. It all started when Parker decided to do something nobody thought could work. He decided to run 3 different wash plants at the same time. On paper, it seemed like a smart way to get more gold. In real life, it turned into a disaster for the person in charge of collecting that gold. All of a sudden, Chris wasn't just running one gold room. He had to handle the cleanups at 3 different locations. And these locations weren't even close to each other. One of the plants was a full 15 miles away from the others. This meant Chris was always moving around, driving back and forth across the Klondike, trying to be in 3 places at the same time. The amount of work was crazy. A normal cleanup is already a long, hard job. It means pulling out heavy mats, washing them down, and carefully collecting every tiny piece of gold dot now. Chris had to do all that for 3 huge plants multiple times every week. He was working longer hours than he ever had before, under more pressure than he ever had before. The cameras showed him looking exhausted and frustrated. He was being stretched too thin, and he knew this couldn't keep going. He told Parker he needed some help. That one person couldn't possibly keep up with the work of 3 different operations. What made everything even worse was Chris's history with body pain. A lot of fans know that Chris has dealt with serious back problems for years. That's actually why he stopped working on the heavy equipment and moved to the gold room in the first place. Driving the rock trucks and loaders caused him so much pain that he just couldn't do it anymore. The gold room was supposed to be an easier job for his body. But now Parker's new plan had him driving all over the work sites and doing the heavy lifting of 3 cleanups. His body just couldn't handle it. He was in pain. He was completely exhausted, and he was being pushed to his breaking point. The never-ending drive for gold had hit a human limit dot, and that limit was Chris Doumitt. He had given everything he had to the mine, and now he had nothing left to give. But was the extremely hard work the only reason he finally said he'd had enough? Or was there something much bigger going on behind the scenes? A conflict that the cameras never showed you? The story the show tells is about burnout, a loyal worker who just couldn't handle the pressure anymore. But people close to the operation whisper about a different story, one that's way more dramatic. The real reason Chris left wasn't only about how much work there was. It was a huge shock that involved a massive fight about money in a basic clash in beliefs between the old-school miner and his young millionaire boss. As Parker's business grew from a small family operation into a multi-million-dollar company, the vibe in the crew started to change. The friendly, close group was becoming more like a big corporation. And with that change came new kinds of stress. Parker's goal was bigger than it had ever been, chasing an incredible $40 million in gold dot to reach that goal. He had to push his crew and his equipment harder than ever before. This is where the clash in beliefs started. For Chris, a man in his late 50s, life was about more than just the next big gold find. He cared about his health, his happiness, and getting paid fairly for his hard work. For Parker, a young guy driven by record-breaking goals, the focus was on numbers, being efficient, and pushing every limit possible to make the most profit. The rumor is that Chris felt like his loyalty and hard work weren't being appreciated. He was the backbone of the whole operation, but he was being worked into the ground without getting the support he needed. This led to a heated argument behind closed doors about loyalty and what it really means. Was loyalty about staying with the crew, no matter what it cost you personally? Or was it about being loyal to yourself and your own health? Chris was backed into a corner. He saw the operation turning into an unhealthy workplace where the constant chase for gold was more important than the people digging it out of the ground. He chose himself. He decided that his mental health and his physical health were worth more than any amount of gold. His quiet exit wasn't just him retiring. It was a way of standing up against a system that he felt had gone in the wrong direction. This kind of betrayal, whether it was real or just how it felt, has been a repeated theme on the show. Crew members have switched sides before, breaking friendships and causing huge drama. Chris's departure created a massive argument among fans. Some felt he was completely right to leave a job that was destroying him. Others felt he owed Parker his loyalty after all the years they had worked together. But to understand why this decision was such a big deal, you have to go back to the very beginning, to a time when Chris Doumitt wasn't even a gold miner at all. Before Chris Doumitt was famous in the Klondike, he was a carpenter from Oregon. For 25 years, he worked as a plant carpenter, a skilled worker who knew how to build things that would last. His journey into the world of gold mining happened completely by accident. In 2010, the very first season of Gold Rush, Chris was hired by the Hoffman crew for a simple 10-day job to build a cabin on their land. That 10-day job changed his entire life. He showed up at the work site and immediately got pulled into the wild, messy world of the Hoffmans. He ended up staying not for 10 days, but for 5 whole months. During that time, he learned how to mine gold through just trying things and making mistakes. The Hoffman crew was famous for constantly having problems, broken machines, and risky plans that rarely worked out. It was a messy, disorganized operation, but for Chris, it was like a crash course in gold mining. He saw with his own eyes how not to run a mine. After his time with the Hoffmans, Chris knew he loved the hunt for gold, but he needed a more stable crew. That's when he found Parker Schnabel. In Season 4, Chris joined Parker's crew, and it was a perfect fit. Parker was the complete opposite of Todd Hoffman. He was young, disciplined, and focused on doing things efficiently. Chris, having survived the chaos of the Hoffman years, immediately appreciated Parker's professional way of doing things. He found his rhythm quickly and became one of Parker's most important team members. This background is what made Chris so valuable to Parker. He wasn't just another skilled worker. He was a veteran who had seen the other side. He knew what failure looked like up close, and he understood how important it was to do things the right way. He wasn't just there to operate a machine. He was there to help build a stable, successful mining operation from scratch. He had a point of view that nobody else on the crew had, and this shared understanding of what it takes to succeed in the Klondike created an incredibly strong bond between the old carpenter and the young mining genius. It was a bond that would soon become the very heart of Parker's entire business. The relationship between Chris Doumitt and Parker Schnabel was more than just a boss and his employee. Over the years, it grew into something much deeper, like a father and son. Chris wasn't just the gold room guy. He was Parker's mentor, his trusted advisor, and the moral compass for the entire crew. This became especially true after Parker's beloved grandfather, John Schnabel, passed away. Chris stepped into that role, offering quiet wisdom and steady guidance to a young man carrying the weight of a growing business on his shoulders. Whenever Parker was stressed out or frustrated, he would go to Chris. Chris would patiently listen, let him vent, and then offer a few words of advice that always seemed to calm him down. He had a way of looking at the bigger picture, of reminding Parker what was truly important. He balanced his respect for Parker's authority with a genuine uncle-like concern for how he was doing. He was the steady, positive person that kept the team motivated even when things went wrong. He would crack jokes, keep everyone's spirits up, and focus on finding solutions instead of blaming people for problems. But the ultimate proof of their bond, the one thing that shows the incredible level of trust between them, has to do with the gold room itself. The gold room is the heart of the entire operation. It's where millions of dollars in raw gold are handled every single week. Any other mine owner would have that room filled with security cameras, watching every single move. But Parker never did. In a behind-the-scenes moment, Parker was asked if he ever thought about putting cameras in the gold room. His answer said everything. He said that if Chris Doumitt ever retired, then he would think about putting in cameras. That single statement shows everything. Parker trusted Chris so completely, so totally that he didn't need cameras. He knew that as long as Chris was in that room, every single ounce of gold was safe. To put in a camera would have been an insult to their relationship.